Hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Donna and I'm part of the membership team here at IIRSM. Your speaker today is Andrew Sharma, but before I hand over to your branch chair, John, I'm going to run through a few things first. To begin with, you should see to the right of your screen a toolbar with various options. You will be on mute for the duration of the webinar. Feel free to ask questions, make comments using the question area, and we will take some time at the end to respond to these. If you need any support using the GoToWebinar system, the I symbol will take you to the support site. Finally, this webinar is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be placed on the IIRSM YouTube channel after the event. So that's enough from me. John, I'm now going to hand over to you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Donna. And hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the West Midlands branch meeting webinar this evening. And for those of you who are listening in after this event, again, a very warm welcome to you too. So my name's John Hughes. I'm the chair of the West Midlands IIRSM branch. I'm delighted this evening to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Andrew Sharma, who's going to be talking to us about the 1 in 10, the power of marginal gains. Now, before I hand over to Andrew, I just wanted to remind you of the committee that we have here of the West Midlands branch. And we're here for you. If you're a member of IIRSM, we're here to support you and your membership journey. So please do reach out to us. We are a new branch. This is now our second meeting. We started last month with Dame Judith Hackett. Again, her excellent presentation is available on the YouTube channel and via the LinkedIn pages. But if you've got any thoughts or ideas on topics or guest speakers, please do get in touch with the committee. Indeed, if you'd like to think about being part of the committee or take on different roles, then please also do get in touch with us. We're a very friendly group and we're here to help and support you as much as we possibly can. So a quick update on some news from IIRSM. Recently launched is the mentoring platform. So if you'd like some support in progressing through your membership grades at IIRSM, or would like a like-minded professional to link to and connect with and help build your network, then I would highly recommend that you join that. If you go onto the IIRSM website, you can find the link there off the homepage. Click on it and that'll take you through where you can register and get all the information you need to join the mentoring platform. Of course, if like me and you want to be a mentor, then you can do that as well. And we're openly and actively encouraging new mentors to also join the scheme. If you think you've got some value you can add to other members too, we'd love to hear from you. It's also awards time. So the 2022 IIRSM Risk Excellence Awards, it's now open. So take a look on the website. You can find the various different categories and you can start entering yourself, your organisation or others into the different awards. And what a brilliant piece of news that would be if anybody associated with the West Midlands branch was to win an award at the IIRSM 2022 Risk Excellence Awards. Also, don't forget that IIRSM also run a range of training courses. And the Managing Risk, the Essentials course is available. There's been some fantastic feedback from delegates who've already completed that training. Again, next course is coming up in November the 16th and 17th. So if you'd like to find out more about that, please again go onto the IIRSM website and click on through and you can find the course details and ways of how to book your place on that training session. Also recently launched in the last few days, we have the 1% Safer Bursary in partnership with the IIRSM. Now, this evening, of course, our key speaker is Dr. Andrew Sharma, who is the chair of the 1% Safer Foundation. So who better to guide us through the 1% Safer Bursary than Andrew? So rather than me tell you about this, I'll hand over now to our speaker this evening, Dr. Andrew Sharma. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be here. I've just got to fiddle a little bit with the tech on my side. I'm using a Mac. It's my first time on GoToMeeting, so I'm hoping that someone's going to make me into a presenter in just a second, and then I can click this and get it going. Here we go. Can you see that, John? Is that all right for you?
Yep, that's fine.
Excellent. Jolly good. Hey, listen, first, before I get started, congratulations to all of you. The creation of a new professional body branch is something to really feel quite proud about. So well done to everybody behind the scenes in setting up the IIRSM West Midlands branch. And congratulations on your choice of first speaker. my longtime friend Judith Hackett. I'm sure she gave you a great talking to at the last meeting. Judith and I have been friends and colleagues for a long time, and in fact, a couple of years ago, wrote a book together about safety leadership, and that was great. She's also a contributor to the 1% Safer book and to the movement that we've created globally. So I hope that I'll be able to say something useful tonight to follow in her footsteps with you. I should also say, and not a lot of people know this, that it feels a little bit like I'm coming home tonight by being here with you, because whilst I've been living in Switzerland for the last 11 years, and before that I grew up in Scotland, I was actually born in the West Midlands. I was born in Nuneaton, but my folks moved to Scotland just before I was 2 years of age. So it's quite nice that my first IIRSM branch is the one in the region that I was originally born in. But look, enough about me. Let me get on with the talk that I wanted to share with you tonight. I want to talk to you a little bit about the idea around marginal gains, the concept of incremental progress. And I'll get into that in a moment, but I just want to kind of get you thinking a little bit about a number. I don't know whether you're able to do this in real time, but if you can interact using the maybe the questions or the chat box, please do type in if you know what this number means. I can see a couple of people in the chat. So Michelle's struggling with sound, but she's got it. But if anybody knows what this number means, type it into the chat. What is this? 2.78 million. It's a big number, that's for sure. But what does it signify? It's at the end of a long day, isn't it? So maybe it's a tough one to try to recall. 2.78 million is the number of deaths caused by work-related injury and work-related ill health every year. It's a colossal number, and to be honest, I struggle to get my head around it quite a bit. But if you think about it in the context of the workplace, what does it really mean? Well, it means we need to do something about it. So what do we do? Well, most organizations turn here first to rules and regulations. And I think it's interesting that when it comes to workplace safety, bosses in organizations are told to follow the rules, to make new procedures, to create policies. They're told to comply. Leaders get told that it's the law, that it's enshrined, it's enacted, it's enforced, and they've just got to do it. If they don't, there's big trouble. It's courtrooms, it's jail, it's real bad news. And we hear this idea that all accidents are preventable. And then we hear leaders say, we can't tolerate any number of accidents. 0 is the only target. But the big issue, I think, is that the leaders that lead organizations today didn't get any real meaningful development around what safety actually is on their journeys to the top of organizations. There's no MBA program anywhere on the planet that includes safety as a core module. There's no fast track executive program that does it either. I teach at 2 of Europe's leading executive business schools, INSEAD in Paris and IMD here in Switzerland. And neither of those schools have a fast track master's in safety or is safety included in their MBA. And I think that's the big issue. I think that's why we're still seeing so many thousands and millions of people dying through work-related illness and accident each year. I think leaders are always told the what, they need to have some safety, but they rarely get told how or why it's important. We see leaders in organizations around the world uttering statements like safety first, and we've got a target of 0 accidents. But I think these things in themselves are blockers to great safety performance and great safety culture. It sounds like the right thing to say, doesn't it? Safety needs to come first, but the realities of running modern business, no matter which sector you think of, safety can't come first. Business comes first always. Businesses are in business to make money. Safety needs to be how they do their business, not the priority at the top of the list. Because as any of you know, if you've ever created a to-do list like mine today, you think you know what your priority is at the start of the day, but by the time you get a couple of hours in, that's changed and you're shifting priorities. So I think the big challenge that we need to address is the boardroom. Because if we think about the boardroom's challenge, and when I say the boardroom, I suppose I collectively mean the global boardroom, all boardrooms in all organizations everywhere. The challenge for the global boardroom is this: to resolve this figure of 2.78 million. Now, when I talk to senior executives, CEOs, and presidents of some of the world's biggest companies every day through my consulting business, they always tell me the same thing. They say, look, Professor, I'm committed to this whole safety thing, but how do we get started? You know, that number is huge. So I thought it might be interesting to break it down a little bit. 7,616. That's the number of people that die every day. So I'm taking my 2.78 million, just dividing it by 365. 7,616 people dead every day through work-related accidents and work-related ill health. But now still that number is too big, isn't it? We can imagine, oh, 7,616, that's about the size of the town that I live here in Switzerland. Well, that's about the size of your organization, perhaps. But it's still such a huge number, it's hard to really get to grips with. So let's break it down a bit more. 317 people every single hour. Now, this number is still staggering, but at least we can start to get our heads around it. It's the size of a department or a site. It's the number of friends you have on Facebook or the amount of connections you have on LinkedIn. But we're still not doing justice to this data. So I want you to do something with me. I want you to count from 10 down to 1. Are you ready? Let's do it. "10 seconds and another person's dead as a result of work-related accident or ill health. One person every 10 seconds. And that person is just like you, just like me. A husband, a wife, a partner, a friend, a son, a daughter, a father, a mother. This is another human being, just like you, just like me, dead every 10 seconds. And it strikes me that the way we're working just isn't working when it comes to safety. We've got to do something different. You know, I think that the big problem is quite simply this, that the leaders who are responsible for making sure we have safe and healthy workplaces don't always understand what great safety is or how to reach it. I've been on many safety tours or Gemba walks where leaders walk up to people and say, got any safety issues? I'm sure you've heard it. At the end of the team talk, the start of the town hall meeting or leadership team meeting, on the shop floor safety walks, you always hear leaders say, have you got any safety issues? Have you got any safety problems? And the answer is always the same. Well, it's nothing, really. It takes a very brave employee to say to the boss, actually, boss, I'm glad you asked me that. I've got a long list of safety issues here. I've just been waiting for you to ask me. So we've got to get leaders better at asking questions. Because the big issue is that we have all these deeply trained operators in our sites, our factories, our organizations. We've got well-trained managers. We've got high-flying execs. We've got brilliant health and safety professionals. But yet still when we ask that question, any safety issues, we've got nothing. And while the tumbleweed rolls through and the clock tick-tocks along and the manager checks the box to say, yes, everything's all safe, another worker dies. And then another. And then another. Somewhere, it might not be in our factory, it might not be on our side, but somewhere every 10 seconds, someone like you and me loses their life because of workplace safety and health. And then it's our turn. The phone rings in the middle of the night, we panic, we wake up and someone says, I've got some very bad news. Something terrible has happened at work. The police arrive, paramedics are called. People are panicking, not sure what to do. The bosses are trying to get things under control. The investigators take meticulous notes. The investigation drags on and on and on. Nobody sleeps, the lawyers argue, and then eventually the questions start again. Why didn't someone say something? Why did nobody speak up? Well, why did they stay silent? Why did we wait until someone got hurt? About 1.5 years ago, I left Switzerland to go back to Scotland to see my family for a weekend. Took a little rolling suitcase with a few bits and pieces, mostly chocolates and cheese and Swiss teddy bears to give to my nephews and niece. I ended up staying there for 3.5 months in an Airbnb. I couldn't get back to Switzerland. It was the start of the coronavirus pandemic. I was kind of a bit frustrated because I'd recently been elected as the president of IIRSM. My consulting business was running at warp speed. I was fully booked with work. I was writing a new book. And now here I am stuck in rural Scotland thinking, and now what? And then on the radio came this song. Do you remember it? By UB40? I am the 1 in 10, a number on a list, even though I don't exist. Nobody knows me, even though I'm always there, a statistical reminder of a world that doesn't care. And I thought this was a really interesting tune. I remembered it from my childhood, but when I really focused on the lyrics, it got me thinking about the numbers of people that don't exist, that are just statistical reminders. They're LTI frequency rates or fatal accident rates. And what I realized was that over the last year or so, that I'd asked so many client organizations to tell me about the fatal accidents that they'd had. And most of them couldn't tell me much more than the first name of the person. Only a couple knew whether the person was married or had kids or how long they'd worked here or actually what their real job titles were. And I think this is tragic that workers come to work to do a great job, but then suddenly become a statistic when an accident or ill health occurs. And as I thought about this idea of statistics and 1 in 10, and I started just getting my calculator out and taking that 2.78 million and breaking it down and breaking it down and breaking it down until I got to the idea that it's one person every 10 seconds that dies. And that made me really quite mad, to be honest. And I thought we've got to do something about this because the number isn't changing. Whilst at individual organization level, we see the number going up and down a little bit here and there, year on year. And we think, oh, we've done a good job and we're reducing accidents. Globally, the picture remains the same. And I think all of us as OSH professionals need to do something about that. So I sat there feeling sorry for myself in Scotland, stuck, can't go home, wondering, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. How can I change 2.78 million deaths? And I came up with this idea of writing a book. I thought that, well, if I can write a book that could somehow contain all of the very best pieces of wisdom, then maybe we could find a way of getting that out, and maybe that might be useful. So I hatched this plan that if I could get people that I knew that were much smarter than me to write something that was really useful in the language of leadership, then perhaps that might be able to make a difference. So I hatched the idea of this thing called 1% safer. And all I thought was, well, look, if we can make the world 1% safer today, wouldn't that be a good thing? If we could do it again the following day and then again the following day. So I sat there through the night firing off emails with this crazy idea to all of these people that I knew that I really rated, people like Edgar Schein, who's my professional hero. He's 95 now, still writing about organizational culture. Marshall Goldsmith, the world's #1 executive coach. Judith Hackett, who you heard me mention earlier, and loads of other players from around the world, writing to them saying, hey, do you want to get involved in something? It's crazy, but could be fun. And by the time I got up the next day, I had precisely 0 positive responses. And again, the same the next day, and again the next day. And then eventually they started trickling in with people saying, well, this is a cool idea, we'll do it. And the deal was quite simple. I wanted 100 people to write 1 chapter of this book, 1% Safer. And the chapter had to be more or less 500 words. So they all started writing their chapters. And the scope was broad. Write about whatever you want, so long as you absolutely believe in your heart that if people do this, it can make the world of work a little bit safer every day. And that was simply it. I thought it was just going to be 100 chapters in a book. In the end, I had 142 people write back and say, yes, we'll do it. So now we've got 137 chapters in here, 137 because a couple of them are co-authored. So we've got this book that weighs about 1 kilogram. It's massive. I mean, look, if we compare it to a regular paperback size, this is one of those big heavyweight coffee table books. It's got loads of really kind of funky graphics in here. It's really a kind of different kind of a thing. So it's a cool book, but so what? Well, you're right to ask that. Well, here's the so what. If we don't do anything about this 2.78 million deaths, and we just carry on working on what we're doing in our little part of the world, if we essentially do nothing but focus on ourselves, well, after 365 days, we pretty much get what we've currently got, 2.78 million people dead. But if we just do a tiny incremental effort, if we just do 1% more, well, this is what it looks like. 1% more each day equals nearly a 38 times improvement on where we are right now. Imagine being 38 times better at something in a year from now. That's remarkable. So this idea of marginal gains started to really kind of get into my head. And for those who prefer something a little bit more graphic, let's check it out here on this chart. Do nothing apart from the plan you've currently got, and you'll be more or less here in a year. Do 1% better every day, and you get the significant uptick that comes almost immediately. Now, 1% worse every day also has a significant difference too. And what I want you to look at is the delta between the black point and the red point, and think about which side of the blue line you want to be on. Because there's a massive prize here. If we make something 1% better every day, it's 38 times better than where we are now in a year. But in percentage terms, it's 3,800% better. A 3,800% improvement in our performance. Now imagine if you went to your boss and said, I'm going to improve safety by 3,800%. They would be interested, right? Now, this is not a novel concept. I'm not claiming to have created this idea of marginal gains. And so Dave Brailsford, he's not either. You may know his name. He was the coach for the UK Olympic cycling team a few years ago and encouraged them to think about 1% here and there and all that sort of stuff. In fact, a guy far smarter than me for sure, Albert Einstein, said, the way that you make real step change is by focusing on compound interest. And that's all this marginal gains theory is. Small improvements day by day that adds up. In simple terms, Tesco get it right when they say every little helps. And it does. And I think in safety, what we try to do most often is set these audacious targets and goals and say, we've got to do this, we've got to achieve all of that. And I wonder if we just broke it down just a little bit more into these marginal gains, the incremental progress, whether that might make it a little bit more achievable. Now go back to that big number that I started with, 2.78 million. I bet you've already worked out what 1% of that looks like. 28,000 people. If we can make the world of work 1% safer, we can save 28,000 lives every year. Now, this is exciting to me. Of course, I can't do it with a book. The book is great, and there's 142 really smart people writing something in here. And I think that there are some fantastic contributions in this. When I look at this after 25 years of working in safety, I think, geez, I wish I'd known that sooner. That would be a great thing to do. So there's some great stuff in here, but it's not going to be enough. We can't make the world 1% safer just by publishing a book. So we've had to work a little bit harder. And in April this year, we created our first 1% safer summit called Live and Direct, 1% safer live and direct. We had people from about 28 or 29 countries around the world joining us on a Zoom platform to share the day, to talk about this concept, this philosophy, and start to create the roots for a global movement. Since then, we've set up locations in New Zealand and Australia, starting to work in the US and Canada too. And we've built a charitable foundation because every penny made from the sale of every single one of these books goes directly into a charitable foundation and then gets paid out to people that need a little bit of support to make the world of work 1% safer. So it's a purely philanthropic exercise. There's no commercial gain for anybody here. All the money goes into a tin and then we spend it straight away. Now, you heard John allude to the 1% Safer Bursary at the beginning of this call. We're super excited about it. It's one of our first primary projects where we're looking at something outside of Europe. 5 nations, 20 people in each one of those nations: Ghana, India, Pakistan, Egypt, and Nigeria. There we go, there's the 5th. It's a long day today for me. So 20 people in each of those countries are going to get this 1% Safer Bursary, allowing them access to a whole host of benefits and support through IIRSM, plus exclusive content for 1% Safer too. We're super excited about that. So we're giving the money away to people that want to work with us to grow this idea of making the world 1% safer. You can find out how to apply for grants and bursaries and funding at 1%safer.com, and it's open to individual practitioners too. So if you're an ops professional who's finding things a bit tough as a result of the pandemic, maybe you've lost your job and you want to do some retraining, you can apply for a grant to 1% Safer for that. If you need a little bit of help with stuff that's going on in your life, or you want to get involved in a community project and make your community a little bit safer, you can apply too. Application is dead easy. It's just a couple of pages, and you can find out all of the details at 1%safer.com. So I'd encourage you to have a little look at that, and perhaps also think about who in your network might benefit from just a little bit of extra support just now. But also think bigger than that. Think about the small and medium-sized enterprises or not-for-profit organizations in your network. Would they benefit from a grant from 1% Safer Foundation? So do please spread the word on this. We want to spend all of the money that comes in from the sale of these books. We've only got 3,000 of the books and 2,000 of them are already sold. So we've got a pile of cash that we want to spend to make the world of work safer. Now, set some context here, and I bet you're probably thinking, okay, but what's in the book? Tell us a bit about that. Well, I think you've got the idea. It's not about massive step change. It's about incremental progress, marginal gains day after day after day after day. This idea of compound interest, as you heard Einstein say. And I thought what I'd do, rather than me trying to explain in my words what I think is a good idea out of the book, I thought I'd just choose a couple of chapters from the book and kind of give you a bit of a flavor for the content. So Bob B, who's the Professor Bob B, I should say, University of California at Berkeley, the Center for Catastrophic Risk Management, has spent 66 years thinking about risk management and safety. And I've been following him, not quite for all those 66, but certainly for 25 years of my career. I've been following his work, and I find him one of the most articulate and brilliant thinkers in risk management that I've ever come across. His chapter in the book is called the 5 C's, and he says a key result from a 10-year series of research and development projects into risk assessment and management identified 5 organizational components, 5 C's, for successful implementation of advanced risk management processes. And he talks about the first one, cognizance, that responsible organizations need to develop a realistic awareness of the hazards and risks that confront their infrastructure. Concerns about safety and risks is constant awareness is crucial. Diligence to maintain systems as low as reasonably practicable during the life cycle of the risks is even more critical. And he goes on to share the other 4 C's. First one was cognizance, second, commitment, third, culture, fourth is capabilities, and fifth is counting. And this is a really nice one. He says, this 5th C is very important. Counting means the development of validated, quantified metrics that can be used by regulators, managers, engineers, operations, and maintenance personnel alike to really understand and evaluate systems risk. And he goes on to talk a little bit about how to do that. So Bob B, great little article in here about risk management using that 5C approach. The other one that I thought might be worth mentioning this evening to you guys is this one from Dr. Isaac Getz. Isaac's at he's a professor at the ESCP Business School in Paris. And his chapter title is Give People Control. And he says here, British psychologists Bosma, Stansfield and Marmot studied stress levels of more than 10,000 British civil servants. Their findings showed that men perceiving little control over their jobs are 50% more likely to develop heart disease than those who feel in control. And for women, the risk is 100% higher. And Isaac goes on to unpick all of this research and give you some practical ideas on what you could be doing to think about stress management in your workplace. And I think that's pretty important, particularly as we've just gone past World Mental Health Day just last weekend. So if you're interested in stress and mental health, there's a stack of stuff in there too. And then the third one to mention is really a bit of a theme that comes out through the book, the theme of curiosity. And we've all heard the phrase curiosity killed the cat, but actually I don't think it did. We can talk about how many lives cats have, but I think the point about curiosity, at least in my view, is that it's the most underrated, underutilized leadership skill ever. I think the coronavirus has caused it to be pushed even further down the list of skills that leaders use, but it needs to come back to the top. I tell leaders every day around the world that in order to be a great leader, you don't need to have the right answers to everything. You just need to have the right questions. We've got to find ways of switching the narrative from asking questions like, is everything safe? Or have you got any safety issues? Or have you got any safety suggestions? To really asking much more meaningful questions, open questions that begin with who, what, why, where, when, those sorts of things. And there's a little poem by Rudyard Kipling. I included it in the book here. Rudyard Kipling said, I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when, and how and where and who. It's a fun little poem, but it reminds us, I think, of the importance of curiosity. If you think about it, curiosity didn't kill the cat. It actually creates the lives that we live. Curiosity is the thing that can save us when we're in a boring meeting. We start thinking about stuff, asking questions. Curiosity is the spark that creates great relationships. Curiosity is the thing that makes your boss liked by you because he or she asks you questions about what you're doing and how you're feeling. So I think this idea of curiosity is absolutely essential to modern leaders, whether they're OSH practitioners or operational leaders. So I'd urge you to look up the curiosity sections in this book too. Now, I want to start to draw to a close here before we get to some questions by getting you thinking a little bit more about this idea of marginal gains. I'm sure some of you read the book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. He's a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist and economist. I think he's probably one of the best thinkers in recent times. And he talks about this idea of marginal gains by saying, look, in reality, the world is so complex and so dynamic that the best you can possibly hope for is what we call practically significant improvement. Practically significant improvement, which, as he explains, is usually just a few percent. And he reckons if you can get a few percent at relatively low cost, then that's a real success. So don't take it from me. Think about the words of eminent psychologists like Daniel Kahneman or brilliant physicists like Albert Einstein. They've been telling us for a long time that we've been getting it wrong by setting audacious goals and targets and objectives. And perhaps what we really need to do is focus on the marginal gains, the incremental progress, the continuous improvement, the small steps every day, because really every little does help. I hope that I've piqued your interest into this idea of making the world 1% safer. I'm asking you now to come and join me and the 142 authors of this book and the ambassadors that have set up and created this global movement. We have a board of trustees running our foundation, 11 brilliant people from around the world who are controlling how we drive this movement forward, and we'd love you to take part. You can do that in a number of different ways. You can buy the book. You can get a copy at 1percentsafer.com, knowing that every penny that you spend on the book is going directly into the charitable foundation and then being spent on good causes that are all trying to make the world a safer place. You can also just add your voice to 1% Safer. You can find that on the 1%safer.com webpage, you're able to share an idea on how you think you could make the world of work 1% safer. Share an idea there so other people can see it. Or you can join us on social media. We've got a presence on LinkedIn where we're sharing extracts from the book, interviews with authors, and new ideas too that ambassadors and 1% game changers, that's people like you that are committed to the philosophy, are adding onto LinkedIn and other social media channels. I reckon that we, the OSH profession globally, have all of the solutions that we need to save 28,000 deaths every year just by making the world of work 1% safer. And I think if we apply all of this learning that we've got together, as we've tried to do in this book, but on a much bigger scale, we can fundamentally, radically and sustainably change that 2.78 million number. And we can do it for the good, not just of ourselves or our organizations or our communities, but for all of us together on this one planet. So I hope you found this interesting. I'm open to some questions, and if there's something on your mind and you want to talk about it, I'd love to chat with you about it. I'll stick around for a little while longer. And if you're looking for a great Christmas present for someone, or maybe a treat towards the end of the week for yourself, pick up a copy of 1% Safer and help us make the world of work just a little bit safer every day. Thank you very much for listening. And if there are any questions, I'd love to take them now. John, back to you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you for an enlightening presentation there on 1% Safer and the charitable aims of the foundation there, and some of the learning examples you gave from the book. We've had a couple of questions come through. So one question we have here is, in the UK, our statistics are relatively low compared to the rest of the world. We're one of the safest countries. What can the UK do to help influence the statistics elsewhere in the world?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great question. Good starting point. So for a long time, the UK has been regarded as perhaps amongst the best or the top tier in terms of workplace safety and health. I think, therefore, there's an obligation on UK safety professionals to share what they've learned, what works, with other places around the world, or indeed in the UK, to spread the love, to share the knowledge, to share the potential for value gain. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do through the 1% Safer Bursary by focusing on these 5 other nations: Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, Pakistan, and India. IIRSM believes that there's some support it can give to those nations in particular. And I think we can all do that. We could join through the IIRSM mentoring scheme, for example, and offer to mentor people in other parts of the world. When you register for that scheme, you can suggest what it is that you'd like to do. There are other mentoring schemes available, of course, I'm sure too. Well, you could get onto LinkedIn and you could create something there. I mean, what I hope is that the idea of this book serves as maybe a bit of inspiration for some of you to think, okay, well, if that guy can make this book with 143 people in it, maybe I could do something. Maybe I can create a podcast. Maybe I can do something on social media. I mean, this was a crazy idea. When I dreamt it up, I've got to admit, I had a couple of glasses of whiskey that night. I woke up in the morning with a sore head thinking, shit, how on earth am I going to make this a reality? That was in April. But by mid-August, the book was not only written, it was also printed, published, and with an endorsement on the back from Her Majesty the Queen and from Prince Charles. So we'd managed to do something that I thought was unthinkable in 4 months, which goes to show the power of collaboration, I think. So use your network, get together, get creative, have a brainstorm over a pint of beer or a glass of wine or a cup of tea and say, look, what could we do together to make the world of work 1% safer?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And I hope that's one of the benefits of having a branch where like-minded professionals, IIRSM members or otherwise, you can come along and we can have those discussions. Plans are for December. Perhaps we'll have more of a social type event there where perhaps we can have some open discussion and debate across our members, and in due course get back to those halcyon days pre-COVID where we could all meet up in a venue somewhere and share some fellowship. Thank you, Andrew. One of the contributors, you referenced examples of practical significant improvement. Linking through to that, for many years, we've shouted safety and we've whispered health. The question here is around mental health, and a statistic that in the UK, in an average year, 40 construction workers lose their life through a work-related accident at work, and yet at the same time 440 construction workers complete suicide. And obviously with World Mental Health Day this Sunday just gone, the 10th, have you got any thoughts or ideas or suggestions or indeed contributors in the book that talk about mental health and what practical significant improvements we could look there to help support the mental health of our workforce?
Look, yeah, mental health is very close to my own heart. In my professional career, in a former corporate role, I was exposed to a large number of employees who had either successfully completed suicide or who had attempted suicide. So that took me into a zone that I had never been in before in terms of professional practice. And it was really challenging for me to have to learn about how to investigate, analyze, think about, communicate on that topic. And it certainly switched me on more professionally to the idea of considering mental health as part of the scope of duty and responsibility of the modern OSH professional. And I'm really delighted to see so many OSH professionals getting involved in trying to figure out, understand and respond to the coronavirus pandemic, because that's not typically something that OSH professionals of 2 or 3 years ago, let alone 10, 20 years ago, would have ever done. Well, we're not experts on communicable global diseases and viruses, yet so many OSH professionals stepped up and said, we've got to do something about this, and did such a miraculous job at leading their organizations. I feel proud to be an OSH professional when I see other OSH professionals doing exactly that. And I think what that's done is show organizations that OSH professionals are much more diverse, much more deep in their scope. And I think it also gives us a platform to continue the dialogue on health with our organizations. And what I would suggest to people listening to this is not to be afraid. You know, I've spoken to hundreds of professional OSH people who have said, look, I'm not a nurse or a medical doctor or a psychologist. How am I supposed to talk about mental health? You don't have to be an expert on all of these things. The professional ethics that we're bound to as practitioners, as member practitioners of bodies like IIRSM or other bodies, means that we need to do our very best, but also know where to draw the line and say, actually, that's beyond my scope of competence, and then find extra support. But something we can all do is start raising the game on communication, on mental health, stress, anxiety, and those sorts of things, because I suspect the data is already pointing this way. I suspect that what we're going to see over the next 12 to 18 months is massive upticks in stress, anxiety, and fear-related diseases in organizations, in communities, and in our own family and friend circles. And in fact, I think it's 2 weeks from now, I'm giving a keynote at the International Stress Management Association annual conference, ISMA, where I'm talking exactly about the trends that I'm seeing, because I'm spending probably 40% of my working time talking about well-being and resilience and mental health issues now. So I think it's something that we've got to get our hands around. And if you're not an expert on it, start to just get some interest into it. Dig in there. There's lots of articles in the 1% Safer book on mental health and stress. So that could be a good start point.
Yeah, that's grand. Excellent. Thank you very much, Andrew. Looking through the questions, that's about everything we've had this evening. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up the meeting tonight, Andrew?
Well, I can see one in the question box. Maybe it just came in from Tony Wood. So just to quickly respond to that, John, Tony says, Andrew, how has this thought or movement of 1% Safer affected the way that you give advice to clients to ensure that realistic goals are set? Tony, that touches my heart a bit as well. For a long time, I've been super against this idea of targets of zero accidents. I alluded to it earlier that I think it's one of the most destructive things that we can do. A vision, a mission of never harming people and everybody going home without harm, great mission. But a target or a metric of zero, really challenging. So what I've been trying to do with our clients who span Fortune 500 corporations around the globe is to get them thinking about what small steps they can take, and particularly working with leaders to get them thinking about some of the elements that I've talked about tonight. Curiosity, asking better, more meaningful questions, to really show them that safety excellence is not a kind of hop, skip, and a jump, and then we're there, and then we keep safety excellence forever. Safety is a dynamic thing. It's fluid. It ebbs and flows like the ocean every day. So in order for it to be ebbing and flowing in the right directions at the right time, we've got to stay on top of it. We've got to keep putting in these little inputs day after day after day after day, and regulating our ambition. I don't mean accepting that it's okay to kill somebody or okay to have X number of LTIs. It's not okay at all. People should come to work without fear of harm. But I think the way that we measure progress needs to be broken down into much smaller steps rather than these giant audacious goals that we either hit or miss by a mile. So Tony, I hope that's helpful for you. Listen, just a final thought. If you do know someone that could benefit from a grant from 1% Safer Foundation, please have a look at the website, 1%safer.com, or you can send an email directly, apply@1%safer.com, and you can talk to us at 1% Safer Foundation through that email, apply@1%safer.com. Tell us your thoughts, ask to get involved, offer your support to do something. At the moment, we're a year and a bit into creating a book, into a global movement, into a charitable foundation, into giving all our money away. It's a really exciting time. I just had this idea of writing a book with 143 people that I really like and really admire, and it's turned into something way bigger than that. And I think the trustees on our board at the foundation would love any offers, any ideas, or anything at all that you want to share on the concept. So please do get in touch, get involved, and yeah, let's make the world 1% safer.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Really do appreciate you coming along and talking to us this evening for the West Midlands branch. Thank you very much for sharing your time and your thoughts with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Andrew. So, ladies and gentlemen, hope you found that interesting and insightful. Just a quick call out for our next branch meeting, which is on the 11th of November, which of course is Armistice Day. We have a special speaker, Mr. Carl Cooper, who is an Army Force Protection Officer from the 1st Battalion, the Royal Irish Regiment, which I thought was very apt for Armistice Day, talking to us about how health and safety has been managed historically and is being managed now within the Army. So that just leaves me to say thank you very much for everyone who's joined this evening, and for anyone who's listening in after the event. Thank you very much for your time and for engaging with the West Midlands branch of the IIRSM. If you've got any thoughts, any suggestions, any comments or questions for the committee, please don't hesitate to reach out and link with us on the LinkedIn page. You can view this event on our YouTube channel. I very much look forward to keeping in touch and welcome you for the 11th of November, where I'll be talking with Carl Cooper around health and safety in the Army. So again, Andrew, thanks very much for your time this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and have a safe and productive few weeks till we speak again. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, John. Take care, everyone.